Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for a very special opportunity with Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord, as you know, spent time at Ohio State and moved on to Syracuse. And thanks to Kyle McCord and many of the wonderful student athletes at Syracuse up and down this roster, they had an incredible season, the first season under Fran Brown. Kyle McCord, I've told you many times on the show. Now, Kyle, I don't know if you heard that I said this, but I'm going to let you know while you're on screen with me here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Dude can ball. And he should have been in New York City because, and I'm going to say it, whether or not you could say it, Kyle, I'm going to say it. Cam Ward, head to head, I'm sorry, numbers wise, you were better. Head to head at the Dome, you beat him. So he was in New York City. I think you should have been in New York City. Led all quarterbacks, Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and the list, Will Howard, and the list goes on and on and on and on. In yards this season, set a record at Syracuse. Touchdown passes this season, set a single season record at Syracuse. ACC single season leader in passing yards, passing guys like Phillip Rivers and Russell Wilson and Trevor Lawrence and so on and so forth, Deshaun Watson. A lot of work has been done this season. So, Kyle, my intro to you is something that I've been saying all year long. It's not, is he the best quarterback? Statistically, the man goes to work. So I think that that needs to be said before we get started here, is that you should have been there for the Heisman, whether or not you got it, and you absolutely should be regarded as one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna start bringing you around more whenever I'm getting ready to do an interview or something. Have you give the intro? That was sweet. No, I appreciate it.
So, Kyle, I want to go back to the beginning here because you had the opportunity to make a decision of where you wanted to go, and you ultimately decided Syracuse. And a lot of people speak for you, right? We live in a world where a lot of social media is out there and people have opinions of things. Why did you choose Syracuse? Why was it the right fit for you, hindsight 2020?
It was all about the people for me. Obviously had a great relationship with Coach Fran and Coach Nixon and Coach Nuns, and felt super comfortable with the staff. And then on top of that, just looking at the roster that with guys coming back like Aronde and Justin Barron, Marlo Wax, DeQuint, as well as guys who were going to transfer with me, like Jackson Meeks and Fidel Diggs. We all talked about, how cool it'd be to team up at Syracuse together. So it was just a combination of, just being around a lot of great people, and made my decision pretty easily, to be honest.
And like you said, going through the recruitment process, did you have conversations like in that process itself with a Zede Haynes, with a Jackson Meeks, with a Fidel Diggs? Were there like open, hey, we're all in the portal, I'm thinking about doing this? Did anybody kind of start that conversation amongst you all?
He was the first one to commit. Obviously, he knew Fran from Georgia, so I think he committed like maybe 5 days into the portal being open, and then obviously Syracuse was recruiting me, so he reached out, and so we talked a little bit. And then Fidel Diggs, I knew him for a while. We grew up playing football together, like 7-on-7 and stuff like that. And obviously, he was in the portal too, and so. With him, it was, kind of like, okay, you can, go and lead and be, that guy on defense, and I can do the same on offense, and both being from the East Coast and traveling away for schools, me at Ohio State and him at Texas A&M, it was just kind of almost like a homecoming. And so it was cool just to kind of see it all play out, and, everybody that came here last year with, that intention to have success and going to the NFL had the year they needed to have.
Yeah, and I mean, it all came together, right? You want to believe in something. You talk to Fran Brown, you talk to the staff, you talk about relationships. You want to believe that it's not smoke and mirrors and they're telling you the truth. This team goes to a bowl game. You were a couple plays away from potentially being in an ACC championship game. You win the bowl game on the West Coast. You get to 10 victories. So you put yourself in a situation of double-digit wins on a season. Hindsight, looking back at that, everything that Fran and the staff told you, I know that there was more left in the tank and there was more things you wanted to accomplish as a team, but do you feel like coming to Syracuse helped you to better prepare yourself for the future, not just as a football player, but also as a man? Genuinely, do you believe that it helped you?
1,000%. And I think just being around Fran for a year, I think changed my perspective on a lot. And I think that one, he challenged me as a leader, which I think was important. Obviously, if you want to play at the next level, at quarterback, you're going to have to lead the guys, and it's not always going to be comfortable situations. And there were a few times this year, Virginia Tech, we were down 21-3, Miami down 21 nothing, and so in those moments, I think Fran challenged me, and I think that helped me on and off the field. And so just being around not only Fran but the rest of the coaching staff, just a lot of great men in the organization. And so they didn't let me settle, and I think that was one thing that I definitely kept with me even throughout this pre-draft process, is just continuing to push myself in all areas.
And then Coach Nunzio Campanelli, what's it like working with him? I mean, I'm a card carrying Italian Hispanic, so I know that Italian side. And I mean, his family is obviously within this world of football in so many different pieces. What's it like being with Coach Nuns, and how did he make you better?
Coach Nuns is he's the man, and I think his perspective on the game is, I think, one, unique, and I think two, um, just because he's been coaching for so long, I think he sees it from just he sees it from a very good perspective. I think that's the easiest way to put it. And I think he always sees the bigger picture. And for me, obviously, coming off the year that I had at Ohio State, some ups and downs. I mean, he talked about, winning is hard. Like if you come to Syracuse, like it's gonna be tough to win. You're gonna need to play your best. And similar to Fran, just challenged me every day. And even when you think you have a good practice, and you think you've done kind of all that you can do, it's like he challenge you in another way. And so it's just constantly never settling, and continuing to climb with Coach Nuns. And just spending a short year with him, I think definitely I owe a lot of my success to him, and even in the future, because of the work that we put in together.
And I can't leave out the guy that has so much NFL experience to help prepare you for the NFL, your offensive coordinator, Jeff Nixon, what he did for your game.
Coach Nixon, for me, I think, one, he put a lot on my plate, which is what you want as a quarterback. And I feel like every week, I kind of knew if I played well, we're probably going to win, and if I didn't play well, we probably wouldn't. And so when you go into every game with that mindset, knowing that you're going to have to play your best to win, and it's because of the way the offense is run, obviously very pass heavy, a lot of decisions for the quarterback to make pre and post snap. And so he challenged me just like Coach Nuns did. And going through these meetings with the NFL teams the last few months, like I'm super comfortable talking about the offense because it's a lot of stuff that they run. And so he definitely helped me get ready for the next level in terms of that as well.
You don't have to say anything. You don't have to blink twice. But the Giants need a quarterback, and Jeff Nixon had a little connection there. So just on my mind, just some thoughts. But I know that this is something that you hold close to your vest, and I respect it. I know some people will, ask me, why didn't you say to Kyle, who are the exact teams and this and that? And what people fail to understand, there's the media, and you know this, Kyle. There's the media that are typical, right? The typical people looking for the story. And then there's the relationship. And I'm a relationship person. And I don't think about, hey, let me get a story from Kyle. I think, hey, I want to see Kyle succeed. So when people wonder in this moment why I'm not going to ask you what specific teams, it's because you are negotiating, right? From the moment that you
Yep.
stepped out on the field, you're negotiating. Pro day, negotiating. Combine, negotiating. Workouts, negotiating. So I'm not going to take any money out of your pocket, and I'm not going to take any relationships from you. So I want people to fully know that and understand that, because when you care about the person, that's why that question's not asked, because I don't want any team to not look at you because of any other team that called you. So I will ask you this with respect to your privacy. Have you spoken to a good amount of teams? And what can you tell me about the relationships that you have built?
Yeah, I mean, it's I've talked to a ton of teams, and that's the thing. Like, as much as you think that where the interest is coming from, and you think you have a good idea of the handful of teams where you might end up at the end of the day. Like, I had a few friends get drafted by teams they've never talked to in the pre-draft, and it's like they just, you get a call on draft night, and then boom, like it happens. Like it's very unpredictable. And so as much as it's fun to kind of speculate a little bit and, think forward and, try to think about, where you might end up. Like I see the mock drafts all the time. It's like, if I have no idea where I'm going to end up, how does somebody else who, doesn't obviously have nearly as much information as me know? So, I think it's, a lot of smoke and mirrors right now. And, but it's exciting, it's exciting, talking to a bunch of teams and, creating these relationships. And so, I'm excited. Obviously, don't exactly know what the future holds, but I feel like I'll be in a good spot come the end of April.
What have they told you of the teams that you've spoken to? What are some of those lasting words of either analysis of your game or maybe something you said in an interview? What are some of the things that have stuck with you that NFL teams had spoken with you about?
I think one, they like Syracuse's offense a lot. Like I said earlier, I think a lot of the concepts that we ran were ones that you see on Sunday, and then I think on top of that, the amount of responsibility that I had within the offense at the line of scrimmage and reads and everything that goes into that, I think they like a lot too, because that's similar to the NFL game as well. And then I think the third thing is just my mental recall and being able to go back and talk about plays and the read and how I saw the field and what the coverage was, and then talking about their offense as well, and kind of comparing the similarities and differences. So I think that kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, just coming here for 1 year and having to just pick up a new offense with a lot of NFL schemes and just being challenged on and off the field helped me a lot. And I just I'm super thankful that it happened that way. Obviously, not exactly how you draw it up when you first get to school as a freshman, but just I think couldn't have played out more perfectly coming here.
So you come to Syracuse, and Fran Brown, the head coach, says, "I want to see playground Kyle. I want to see kid Kyle." And what he was saying was he wanted you to run a little bit. Now, you kind of made mention to the fact that when you had a big run that you wanted to be a touchdown, and that was at the Dome and right in front of the press box looking down at it. Did you black out when you spiked that ball? Because I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't think you should have done anything other than do that, because in that moment, appreciating competitor to competitor, seeing you in that moment and seeing you, like, I was a basketball player growing up, but seeing that moment for you and you go out of bounds and you just threw that ball down hard. It was one of those, like, yeah, I am that guy type of moment. Did you feel that? Did you black out in the moment? And just your take on that, like, did Fran come over and go, "Hey, my man, I love seeing playground Kyle, but don't you throw that ball like that again"?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to turn the corner. Obviously, my playing style, those opportunities are limited. So I was kind of upset I didn't get to turn the corner and take it down the sideline for a little more. But it was, I mean, that's exactly what it was. Just having fun and playing loose, and I didn't really think about spiking the ball. It was just kind of like a reaction. It was more so like kind of pissed off that I didn't get more yards, like angry. And as soon as I spiked it, I was like, oh, they're going to throw a flag on that. And then I kind of turned around over my shoulder, and the fact that the ref didn't throw a flag, I owe him one. I'm gonna have to send him a thank you letter. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of exactly what Coach Fran was talking about. Just going out, letting loose, and just having fun.
Fran said that he should send, during the season, because of how you were playing, he said, "I owe Ryan Day a bottle of champagne." Did he send that bottle of champagne? And what are your thoughts on the fact that he believed? Because I asked him, I said, "What did you see in Kyle about the man, not just the football player?" And I asked him that in a press conference, and he spoke about just what he saw in you. Like, he took a chance on you, you took a chance on him. You had 1 year, right? You're trying to make the NFL. He's trying to come out and be a head coach for the first time. You guys took a huge chance on each other. So, did he send that bottle of champagne, that bottle of wine? And secondly, reflecting on the fact that you both took a chance on each other, knowing that it was going to affect his future at Syracuse and your future in the NFL, what does it mean to you now that you took that chance?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he sent it. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he did. I think you gotta ask him next time
Okay.
you got him and see what he says about that. But I think it just it's that connection that we had, and I think it goes back to growing up in South Jersey and just knowing what type of guy he is, and knowing that he's super genuine, and if he says something, he means it. And so For me, obviously, it was a big decision. One more year left to go, and obviously have success, but help your draft stock as well. And then for him being a first-year head coach, like I feel like that first year for a lot of guys kind of sets a trajectory for the rest of their career. So it was a big year for both of us. But I think just like I said, it goes all back to the connection and just the trust that we had in each other, and obviously it worked out great.
Inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, this conversation, a spotlight special with Kyle McCord as he gets ready for the NFL draft. Kyle, you and I have never spoken about this. Reflecting on your time at Ohio State, what did you take away from that, and why was it time to start a new chapter?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade those 3 years for anything. Going through that, I mean, it prepares you for the NFL. About as good as you can. Compared to other schools. And so, obviously some highs and some lows, and definitely faced some adversity. But I learned a lot there. I learned a lot from the coaches, and being surrounded by a lot of great players in practice. And so it forces you to be your best, and kind of have that always compete mindset, no matter what you're doing, whether it's in the weight room or on the practice field and the meetings room, just always competing. And so definitely took that here. And similar to Coach Frank, coming from Georgia, we both had that championship mindset when we first got there.
Yeah, and now looking back on your time, like you said, I mean, things happen the way that they happen, but you reflect back on Syracuse, you reflect back on these moments. You had a running back at Syracuse in LaQuint Allen Jr., who is tremendous. Literally willed the team to a couple wins this season, dragged guys into the end zone. What does he bring to an NFL team? And are you praying by some chance, by some grace of God, that whoever drafts you decides to pick him up too?
Yeah, I mean that would be amazing, to say the least. And I think that what LeQuint did last year, I mean, I can say this with 100% confidence. We wouldn't have the success that we had on offense or as a team without LeQuint. And I think that without a doubt, he's the toughest guy on the team. And obviously, I think everybody sees how hard he runs, and those big plays kind of willing the team to win, as well as his catching out of the backfield. And I think he was maybe the only back, or one other back had, I think he had 50 catches or 60 catches for 500 yards. And then he had 20 total touchdowns running and receiving. And so what he does, just versatility wise, I think gave us a huge advantage on offense. And I think it's pass blocking too. I think that's something that's super underrated. With the amount that we passed last year, I mean, he cleaned everything up and never complained once. And I can't say enough good things about LeQuint. So, God willing, who knows? Maybe we end up on the same NFL team. That'd be great. But I tell people, what makes him so special is he's a little crazy, in a good way. So, yeah, I'm super excited for him and his next step.
And your numbers wise, nobody in Syracuse history, no quarterback, not Marvin Graves, not Don McPherson, not Donovan McNabb, not Ryan Nassib, nobody, not Eric Dungy. No one had ever thrown 4 straight games of 300 or more yards. No one has ever had a streak of 4 that you had 300 or more yards in a game in Syracuse football history. You did it in your first 4 games in Orange. Your streak is now 7. So it was never 4 at Syracuse. Now it's 7 in a row. And in 13 games played this season, 12 of those games you had at least 300 yards passing. The only game you didn't, the win in overtime against Virginia Tech, you had 280, so just shy of it. So are you pissed off at the Virginia Tech game, number one? And number two, just what you can say about the fact that, I mean, 12 of 13 games of over 300 yards. You trusted in your receivers. You trusted in your running backs and tight ends. They came out to play. They trusted you. I mean, this is not any type of strange occurrence here that just happens on its own when you look at a quarterback that's as consistent as you are. So are you pissed about Virginia Tech? And what do you think about the fact that the new record is 7 at Syracuse?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, during the games, you have no idea how many yards you throw for. Like, I think the UConn game, I think I had like 470 yards or something like that. And I remember getting to the locker room after the game, and seeing the box score, and I was like, dang, like, I could have had, 300 yards flat, and I would have been like, yeah, that sounds accurate. And then Virginia Tech, I could have thrown for 350, and I was like, yeah, that sounds accurate. So, obviously I have no idea what it is during the game.
Yeah.
And looking back on it now, like, it would have been cool to have 300 in every game. But like you said, I think, just surrounded by a lot of great receivers and just the amount that we asked them to do in terms of reading different coverages and, winning one-on-one matchups and making tough contested catches. Like we asked a lot from all those guys, and they all stepped up. And it wasn't like, it was one guy that we solely relied on. It was all of them. It was that whole room, receivers, tight ends, and running backs, honestly. So um, I owe a lot of success to them, and I try to make them aware of that as much as I can.
Yeah, and I do want to make a note of this, and definitely for the NFL for you, Kyle. Your offensive line, right? Those are the guys that protect you. They keep you upright. In order for you to show your talents, they got to make sure that they're protecting you. So, what can you say to the offensive line that you had at Syracuse for that season, this past season in 2024-25? Because it was guys that were returning and it was guys that were transferring in. What can you say to that line? Because we look at your numbers, you led the nation in passing yards, like I spoke about. You set an ACC record, you set a Syracuse record in passing touchdowns and passing yards in a single season, passing Ryan Nassib in both of those cases. What can you say to the offensive line's place in that?
Yeah, I mean, the amount that we passed the ball last year, I forget the exact number, like 500 or 600 pass attempts. And so to only get sacked really, I think it was like 20 something times. Like that's a ridiculous ratio. And even some of those sacks were my fault, whether I didn't slide the protection the right way or I held onto the ball too long. So that number could probably be cut in half, honestly. But I think just the success that we had, I think a lot of the credit obviously goes to, publicly goes to me and LaQuinn and the receivers. But I think everybody in that building knows that none of that would have happened without the O line. And, kind of, not like, we had a steady starting five, it's kind of the same thing as the receivers. Like if you could play, you were going to play. And so, some of the young guys, like Joe Cruz got in there a little bit, and then we switched centers and, had a rotation of tackles.
Yeah.
So I think it was just, kind of a group effort. And, I think on top of how well they pass protected, we also had a 1,000-yard rusher. And so, I think what they did last year certainly doesn't get enough credit.
No, and you said it. I mean, 27 sacks on the season, 592 pass attempts. That is 4.6% of the time you were sacked. And like you said,
Mhm.
you take some of those on your chin as well. So that's even smaller than a 4.6%. We go into the draft, but before we get there, we go to the combine, we go to pro day. I was watching what you're doing at the combine and just listening to what people had to say and whatnot. Bring me into the combine experience and not just what you did there that you liked. I'd love to hear kind of what your takeaways were from the combine that you heard from NFL teams. And then, secondly, what it was like to interact with other quarterbacks around the country.
Yeah, the combine is a unique experience. I mean, everybody sees the throwing session, but you're there for a whole week before that doing medical exams and interviews and media. So it's a long process, and it was fun being around the other guys. I think some of them obviously I knew just through camps and playing each other in college and stuff like that. And then other guys, it was my first time meeting them. So it's cool to be around, those group of guys. But the combine was fun, meeting with the NFL teams, I think was honestly my favorite part. And talking ball and sitting down with the coaches and, watching film. So combine was a great experience, but it's definitely a grind. It's kind of one of those things that you're super pumped to be there, but then at the end of it, you're not mad that it's over. But it was fun. It was a good time.
So pro day, you get to do a little bit more, right? We get to see a little bit more of you at pro day. A lot of positives coming from pro day. Bring me into pro day for you and what your takeaways were being back at Syracuse and what you think you really showed that maybe went beyond the combine.
I think pro day for me, I think I really got an opportunity to show timing and anticipation with the receivers. Obviously, playing a full year with them, had a great bond with all those guys and a great connection on the field. So being able to throw the ball before they get out of breaks and knowing exactly where they're going to be, and really the last kind of not that it's a game or a practice, but the last thing you do. And a Syracuse uniform, I guess you could say. So being able to go out with a bang with those guys, and obviously all those guys are going to go on to have great careers in the NFL, and had to get Trev out there as well to run it back one more time. So it was just, for us, honestly, just, going out and showcasing what we've done all season long, and showing that, we're ready for the next level.
When you look back at your numbers and you look at everything that you've done, how do you assess yourself? Like Kyle McCord looking in the mirror post combine pro day, what are you saying to yourself?
I mean, I'm super happy with, how the process has gone so far. And, I think obviously you learn along the way, and it's obviously my first and only time ever doing this. So I'm just trying to enjoy it. And I feel like the hardest part is putting good stuff on tape during the season. And now, it's all about just, being myself, and, doing a good job in the interviews, and, when you're going out and throwing it in a t-shirt and shorts, like if that's hard for you, the NFL probably isn't going to go well. So just trying to enjoy it. I feel like the hardest part is out of the way, and at this point, just soaking it all up.
Before we get into rapid fire and get to put each other on the hot seat here with Kyle McCord on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, you had the opportunity to experience the transfer portal. You had the opportunity to experience name, image, and likeness, NIL. What advice would you give to student athletes having experienced them both?
Um, I think the most important thing, obviously, everybody's goal is to get to the next level. And I know that NIL and the transfer portal, it's, kind of a crazy time. And you definitely want to make as much money as you can. But at the same time, like I had bigger, NIL offers to go to other schools. But for me, it was all about the fit. And so I think that's the most important thing. Like go to a school where you fit in, and you see yourself being able to play and get on the field, and you have a good relationship with the coaches. And because the money at the next level, the money in the pros, kind of makes the NIL money look like chump change. And so that I think that's the biggest thing, is set yourself up for success down the line, and put yourself in a good position to get to that next level. Because the money will always be there, but the success is the harder thing to come by.
You bet on yourself when you came to Syracuse. People had opinions of how the season ended at Ohio State, and you made a decision to come here to have a new chapter and to be with a team that has struggled more than it's had success in recent history. What does it mean to you that coming to Syracuse, like you said, you want to prepare yourself for the next level? You coming here, you are now one of the best quarterbacks that Syracuse has ever had. Fans would love for you to have more eligibility. I know you tried to. So the two things are what it means to what it meant for you to help Syracuse, a program that really needed it. And then secondly, how real was this NCAA waiver? Because again, everyone's talking about it. So coming to Syracuse, what it means to you to help put this school on the map. And then secondly, how real was the potential that you could come back?
Yeah, I mean, growing up on the East Coast, Syracuse is obviously one of the schools that you follow and you pay attention to. And for me, being able to come back, kind of close to home, and be around a lot of guys from Jersey and Philly, and the New York City area, and be able to have a year that, like you said, puts Syracuse on the map, it means a lot. And so now, I think whenever we look back on the Fran Brown era, knowing that I was part of that first group that, kind of we got things going in the right direction, had a 10-win season, and finished ranked. So I think that's going to last a lifetime, honestly. And I think the second part of the question, I mean, it was definitely real, and the thing was, if I can get the extra year, not that I would 100% use it, but just having that option would be nice. And so, about like halfway through the season, started talking to compliance, and see if we could get something worked out. And honestly, like I haven't heard back from the NCAA. Like I don't know if I got the extra year or not. I'm not sure if anybody did. I'm not sure if Fran did or compliance did. But even before I heard back, I was just kind of sitting on the decision, kind of weighing it, not even know if there was a decision to be made. And then Coach Fran called me and we talked and we had a good conversation. He's like, listen, like, as much as I want you to come back for another year, like if I'm you, I'm leaving. He was like, after the year that you had and what you put on film, like, go ahead and, go chase your dream. And so when the man who, probably wants you to come back to Syracuse more than anybody other, tells you to go ahead and, go chase your dream, like it's almost impossible to go against that. So that made my decision easier. And then I think the next day I went ahead and announced it.
Yeah. And I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I was telling people, I said, this is my hometown. Of course, I want to see Kyle come back, but this draft is wide open for quarterbacks. There's no clear cut number one prior to the combine, prior to pro day. He has the opportunity to be at the top of the mountain. And is he going to have this same opportunity next year, depending on what happens? So to me, I said, I was like, I love my hometown, but I have to. I was like, if Kyle pulled me aside and asked me the question, I would have said the same thing Fran said. Love to have you
Hmm.
back, but you know, I mean, this about your future. This is about opportunity, and you deserve to have the best one. Right before rapid fire, I have to ask you this because I don't want to forget. John Gruden. I had an opportunity to meet him, talk with him, interview him. He endorsed the show. Love being around John Gruden. I was like, so many people think you're angry, but he was like a super nice guy to me. And we were in, and this is how crazy it was. We met and did the interview in the parking lot of the Citrus Bowl, which became Camping World Stadium, which is where Syracuse played a bowl game back in 2018. So bring me into your time with John Gruden. He said some really awesome words coming off of it. You know that he likes to test quarterbacks. He wants to make sure you could break down a play, understand things, make decisions. He had good stuff to say about you. What was your experience like?
It was great. Obviously, watched some of his stuff growing up, like Andrew Luck and guys like that. And then sat down. We watched for like 3.5 hours, and he had a whole cut up. And I mean, he was like skipping through plays because he just the cut up was that big. And so no, it's fun. I mean, he loves football, and he definitely does his homework. We were watching high school tape and clips from my freshman year at Ohio State. So he definitely went through the archives. And I mean, I think just being around him, you get smarter. Like you naturally pick up information, and he eats, sleeps, breathes football. Like everything he does is about the game. And then went on the field and had a workout. And so, tried to put me through a little bit of a test, but that was fun. I mean, just being around him, it was great. And, I think that what you see on camera is who he is off the camera. Like he's always on go. So it was a great time. And super thankful that I have that relationship with him now.
What did he say to you? Words that he left you with?
I think probably the biggest takeaway outside of all the X's and O's is just having command. I think that was the biggest thing, and all the guys who have gone on and had success in the NFL have a command and just the hardest working guys and are very process oriented. So I think that was one thing. Obviously, he's been around some of the best players of all time. So that was one of my questions to him is just advice, and so. That's what I took away from it, and I had a great time.
All right, Cal. Well, it's time to play rapid fire. You've never had an opportunity to ask the questions. The media is always asking you. I'm going to flip the script. You've answered my questions. So we're going to go back and forth here. It doesn't have to be football, it could be anything in the world, but we get to put each other on the hot seat. You get to ask me the first question.
Is Syracuse a football or a basketball school?
Oh, what a question. I love that. So they were a football, then they were a basketball for a long, long time. Now I think they're more of a football school. I think in this moment, feet to the fire, they're a football school, but I'd like to see them be both and kind of line those things up again. But I would say thanks to you and Fran and the crew, football is definitely holding the beacon right now. So
That's a good answer.
yeah.
That's a good answer.
My question back to you, Kyle. So you had your own chip and
Mhm.
you wanted the media to try it. You wanted to know what we thought. It was cheddar and barbecue. Did you like your own chip? Would you have changed the flavor?
I didn't get to pick the flavor, so
Okay.
uh, I mean, it was good, but I mean, I have like three huge boxes over there sitting in the corner of my kitchen. So you definitely, yeah, not that the taste gets old, but I've probably eaten too many of them, and so. Now I'm giving them out as much as possible. So I've heard mixed reviews. I'm not sensitive about it, but I mean, it was cool. I mean, I remember the first time walking through Wegmans and seeing my face on the shelves, but no, I wasn't involved in the production of the flavor.
So my one B to that is, what flavor would you have picked?
Probably would have done probably like a jalapeno, like a cheddar jalapeno, something like that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that probably would have been my choice.
All right. Well, Terrell, in the future, let the man pick his flavor. What's your second
Yeah.
question for me?
Who's been your favorite athlete last year? Kind of under the radar to interview. It could be any sport.
Favorite under the radar interview that I've had, athlete to interview. That's a good question. Oh man, that's a good question. I would probably say, well, I'm going to say this because he wasn't under my radar, but I think he was under the country's radar for the last couple of years. And now I don't think he's under the radar anymore, but it's the guy that you literally, I don't even know if you thought about it. You hike the ball and you just let it go, and you're like, he's going to get there, Trevor Pena. But
Yeah,
I've been a Pena fan for 3 years, 4 years. So did he surprise me? No. But the fact that we got to see a full season of him and people got to see someone that I believe in, I would say talking to Trevor, but I'd like to have like more of an expansive conversation with him like I'm having with you. But yeah, I would say I'd probably have to pick Trevor because it was like when he did well, it made me feel a different type of good. It was like I'm happy that that guy is showing the world like what's in him.
100%. That's a good answer. I agree. I mean, when I first got here, obviously, started working out with Trev, and I saw it right away. Like I saw how good he would be, but I didn't know, kind of his journey to get to that point, like all the setbacks that he had to go through. So, seeing him have that year last year was pretty cool.
My buddy Isaac Alford, who helps on the show as well, him and I said that in the spring game, you kept going to Trevor, and he thought that that was a sign of the times. Was that truly a sign of it? Was that relationship already there in spring ball? Because he looked at me and he said, he keeps going back to him, and they look good together. We saw it in the season after the spring
Hmm.
game, but is it true that it was already there in the spring and you kind of just locked into each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think with each receiver, your connection and your chemistry kind of is on different paths, and so. Um, with Trevor and I, it happened pretty quickly. Like it happened, honestly, like at the beginning of spring ball. And so I mean, obviously felt comfortable out there. And I think in the spring game, I could be wrong. OG didn't play. I don't think Jackson Meeks played. And I think we are missing one other. So Trevor played, and obviously it was a great target for me. And so I think that I mean that's true. It was kind of a kind of a glimpse of what was to come.
If Kyle McCord was a superhero, what power would you have? And what power would you have? What city would you protect? And what villain would you fight?
Mm, a good question. Um, I mean, I would want to have super speed just because I'm kind of when I'm on the field, I feel like I have the opposite of that sometimes being around some of those guys. So I would say super speed.
Um,
Um, the villain and city. I would probably say, oh man, that's a good question. I don't know. I would protect Syracuse. I think I would protect Syracuse. And the villain.
I can tell you a
Shoot.
villain. The villain is all the roads that are being ripped up right now.
No, oh my God. I mean, I got lucky. I mean, people here last year said this was a mild winter. The winter of 2024. So I mean, I thought it was harsh, but yeah, I would probably say protecting against the weather or something like that. I mean, thank God that I had a garage to cover my car, because if not, it would have been going out to those mat drills at 5 in the morning would have been even worse. So, yeah, thank God for the garage.
Fair enough. Your final question for me for this edition of Wake Up Call, Mr. McCord.
Let's see. I want I want an early record prediction for the team next year.
Man.
Not
Well,
that not that this is final, because obviously things change, and you got to see the spring game and all that. But early record prediction.
yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna look at it right now, and I'm gonna go down the line here with I got to get my brain with this. So I will say that I did talk to the scheduler of the ACC, and so I got to do like a behind the scenes look at that and spoke with Michael. I asked him why he did this to Syracuse. At
Hmm.
Clemson, at SMU, at Miami. There was already at Notre Dame on the schedule. So, I mean, Tennessee, I'm excited because the season's going to start for Syracuse where it ended for the nation in Atlanta. And I was there at the College Football Playoff National Championship. And I will, God willing, be there for Syracuse, Tennessee. Looking at this right now, so let me say two, I'm going to say three there, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 5-2, 5-3, 6-3. I'm gonna say 7 wins. I want more, but I'm gonna say 7 at the onset of what I'm looking at right now.
That's fair.
But I do want more. My
That's fair.
my question back to you, Kyle. Hmm. If you took over my show for the day and it was Wake Up Call with Kyle McCord, what 3 people would you interview and why?
I would go. I'll go Carmelo Anthony. I think Syracuse legend. And I think it would be cool to talk about his Syracuse career. Obviously, just only 1 year, but his Syracuse career, NBA career, and then kind of his vision on the basketball team next year. Obviously, with his son going there. So I'd say Carmelo would be one. I would say I think you have to get Fran on here. I think Fran would be just funny, a good time, and you would probably get a few headline quotes out of Coach Fran. So I'd say Coach Fran two, and then number three. I'll go with Mike Tirico. Kind of. I think everybody sees him on your side of things, being the one that's asking the questions, but I think kind of flipping that on Mike Tirico, and he's probably got some really great stories about sports events that he's been to, and people that he's interviewed. So I think that's a solid list.
Well, I definitely can appreciate that list. I will tell you this, Kyle. I don't have a Syracuse one yet, and you and I know each other, so we're going to have to change that. But I do have my Ohio State in the studio, Kyle McCord.
There you go.
And so
Yeah,
I do have, by the way, nice signature, man. I like it.
yeah,
So,
yeah. No, it definitely trial and error. I remember like back in high school, I would just sit in the back of the class, just going through like a million different signatures, trying to find one that I liked. So that was quick, and I think it looks good.
no, it definitely looks good, and it takes up most of the card area. But we're going to have to figure something out, Kyle, because you and I have known each other throughout this year and beyond this. So there needs to be there's Wall of Fame that's in here, and I think a McCord, I don't know, glove, a McCord something should be in here that's Kyle McCord related. By the way, you don't know this story, but I said to Fran he had a six jersey on at the Boca Raton Bowl, and I
Yeah.
went up to him at the event because I know a lot of the alumni and they're on the show and they treat me like family, which I can't thank them enough for. So Elijah Robinson was there, some other coaches were there, Coach Williams was there, and Fran was there. And I went up to Fran and I saw the six jersey, and Schrader had been wearing six. So I walked up to Fran and I said, "Oh man," I said, "that's awesome! Like you're the coach and you're supporting Garrett Schrader." I will never forget these words. He goes, "Oh, this Kyle McCord."
Oh man, no, but he FaceTimed me like the night before the bowl game. He was like, "Yo, I got a question." And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "I need a question about my outfit." And I was like, "Why are you calling me about your outfit? Like, what do I care what you wear?" And he flipped the camera and he had like it was like the game like a real game jersey, number 6. He's like, "You care if I wear this?" I was like, "Go ahead." Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of like a perfect embodiment of who he is.
Yeah. Well, so Kyle, I mean, I know that you and I finally got to have an expanded conversation here. I hope it's not our first and or our last, I should say. And I hope that we continue to talk here. So whatever NFL team takes you, of the ones that have the opportunity, all 32 of them, don't forget about me, sir, and I will not forget about you because little things are important to me, building relationships. And I would tell my mom and my dad, I'm like, before games, after games, go up to Kyle and I just bump his fist, say, you got this or good job or something like that. So thank you for caring about the relationship. Obviously, I do as well, and I look forward to building it with you. And I don't think it's too much to ask, man. Now that we've had this time together, that I get some Kyle McCord in this
We
studio.
got to get that set up.
But thank you for everything, seriously, and for a kid who grew up in Syracuse, and I wear it on my heart. Thank you for coming here, and thank you for working as hard as you did, and for believing in this program because the city of Syracuse thanks you. It's not just the university.
100%. Appreciate you.